an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 28 and 29. In this episode, Don Krieg has launched his gas bomb. Can't make that one up. And Luffy decides to fucking get into it with him. And it really goes on a while. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Gabriela for commissioning this episode. Gabriela is here in the chat. Hello, Gabriela. So, yeah, this episode probably, for me, the first of the two. I feel like the second of the two seemed a little bit better paced. But the first of the two really felt to me like probably one of the worst offenders in that, like, everything in anime takes too long sort of category. It does a lot of the like long pauses and a lot of the slow motion that's basically standing still. So it was the kind of thing where I kept having to like rewind it because it would take so long to move on to the next like just bit of emotion from characters that without even realizing it, I would like lose patience and pick up my phone and then realize, oh, I can't do that with this show because it's subtitled. So then I would miss what they said and then I would have to go back and rewind it and rewatch it. And a couple times I lost interest again and picked up my phone again without realizing it because it took that long that even though I knew what I was rewinding for, I still did it. That's one of those things that I also do sometimes with audiobooks or podcasts, and I will like re-listen to the same section 3 or 4 times and I just don't absorb it. I completely miss at the same point every time I start to like tune out. So that's my main criticism of this first one is just that it feels like things take such a long time, more towards the end of it. The beginning of it, because I was very interested in how Luffy had managed to get a hold of a gas mask, I was really like engaged, especially finding out the way that he gets it. Because what it turns out happened here is that Gin basically like he listened to Don Krieg. He like took his orders and got rid of his gas mask as he was told to do, but he gave it to Luffy instead. And it turns into this amazing little moment where Don Krieg is like making fun of Gin for giving up his mask, even though he told Gin to get rid of his mask. And I appreciated that the men in the water, who are, some of them are cooks and some of them are Don Krieg's men, but they were all just like, is he making fun of, is he fucking with him for doing that? He told him to do that. And I was like, yeah, thank you. Appreciated, because also was thinking the same thing. Alex says, these days anime are not that slow because they come out in seasons, so they don't have to worry about catching up, thankfully. Yeah, I was sort of wondering that, Alex. I don't know if that applies to this show specifically, like I'm assuming it would. But I was sort of thinking if once this show gets further on into its run, will this show in particular begin to speed up? Because, you know, saying that about anime in general doesn't necessarily mean that it's true about One Piece, but I was wondering about that. Kyle says, no, One Piece still puts out an ep every week, but yeah, modern anime is much better paced. Okay. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that sometimes the scene is so funny, the way that it's animated, or you're just so excited about whatever is happening that even if it is slower paced, you're sucked in anyway. But you guys know that this particular arc for me with Don Krieg just hasn't engaged me. It's not the show's fault. You know, I was saying before, I mean, I guess it is the show's fault, but I'm not trying to say that the show sucks. It's just one of those that doesn't quite resonate for whatever reason. And I've been rewatching, I actually meant to mention this. Owen and I have been going back and rewatching it because I've mentioned to you guys that Owen is reading the manga. And so we went back to the beginning of the season and we've been rewatching it with the English dub over it because I was just curious to see how it was with the dub. And Owen didn't want to watch it with subtitles because he wants to be able to, like, you know, dick around on his computer or his phone and not have to have his eyes glued to the screen the whole time. So I was like, all right, perfect. We'll watch it with a dub, and that way I get to experience that and see what that's like, and you don't have to, you know, pay too close of attention. And it's been really, really interesting. I watched one episode with the dub by the time I had mentioned it on another episode of this show, and it was just sort of like interesting in a vague way. But as we've gotten a little bit closer to where I currently am, I have a better memory of the experience of watching the subtitled version, and I am better able to pick up on some of the differences. And the main one for me that I thought was really, like, just didn't translate well at all was Buggy the Clown. I feel like Buggy the Clown with the American or the English dub is just way less fun. They don't use flashy or flashily nearly as much. And I don't know if that's due to feeling like it wouldn't hit with American audiences, feeling like that translation isn't quite right. I don't know. But whatever the case, I just was like, wow, this is actually like way better as a subtitle. I feel like I get who Buggy the Clown is a lot better. Also, their voices are more interesting, usually. With the subtitling, the dub voices, I mean, Luffy's voice is just weird. Clearly also a woman, but he's got like a deeper, rougher kind of like, you know, just a voice that for me, part of the fun of Luffy is that he sounds like a goofy kid. So I just realized that his name rhymes with Goofy. Never really thought about that, but it does seem appropriate. Alex says, yeah, there's only so much you can do with a lame villain. They really picked great voice actors in Japan for the OPs, says Gabriela. Yeah, I really keep being like pleasantly surprised. Even characters like Gin, he doesn't talk that much, but whenever he does, I'm like, man, that is a good voice. I was sort of hoping that Gin would throw in with our crew. I didn't really want him to because he doesn't quite fit the energy, but a part of me was like, well, maybe he could hang out with him for a little bit and then, you know, depart for other adventures at some point. But I will say, as far as like the lame villain thing, Alex, yeah, I think what sort of brought it down, when we were rewatching the Buggy the Clown episode, I had said something about how they added so many new characters with this particular arc, and that was part of what got a little bit heavy for me. I felt like they did too much too quickly. That said, I forgot that in the Buggy the Clown arc that we have the like animal tamer guy and we have the like juggler guy that like throws spinning tops. We have a couple of other sort of like mini bosses, so to speak. And I had completely forgotten about them. And I was sort of feeling like we were overloaded with bosses for this arc. And I feel like that was a bit unfair of me. I just failed to remember how many we were coping with on other arcs. I think partially because the other mini bosses were more interesting and they felt like Pearl is just not good. I think it's Don Krieg is uninteresting to me and Pearl is so lame, and combined it's just like a recipe for failure. But the animal tamer guy was pretty fun. And he also like goes up against that dog, and that dog being added as a character really was wonderful. That whole like little backstory about the dog and his master and all of that paid off so well. I would really have liked if we had an animal aspect to this arc. You know, what if there was a shark or a really mad seagull? I say that like it's a joke, but this show would definitely do something like that. But yeah, you know, throw in a little bit of that, and I feel like maybe we would do a bit better. So, like I said, this episode starts off with Luffy realizing that he got given Gin's mask. It takes him quite a while to put two and two together on that. And poor Gin, they illustrate him with this like bluish gray hue and blood pouring out of his nose, and it's truly upsetting. He winds up recovering, but it takes a minute. And meanwhile, like I said, fucking Don Krieg is like grinning to himself. Don Krieg is so like, I just don't understand. I thought what we were going to get, and it doesn't actually happen, unless I'm misremembering, but I just watched this, so I don't think so. I was hoping that Don Krieg's guys would just completely turn on him because they realized that he was willing to let Gin die, and Gin had been so loyal and so good to him that his own people would eventually be like, wait, why are we following this guy again? But they just sort of off to the side discuss how they can't believe that he would do this, but they don't make a move against him. And I was like, y'all are really missing an opportunity here. Like, you have to realize that combined, you probably could do something. It's like the workers of America, you know? We really need to start leveraging our labor, everybody, because the bosses, they're not going to do the right thing. We just have to make them because there's more of us. It's just math. But Luffy, for his part, is so disgusted with Don Krieg letting Gin die. Like, this really in particular seems to be what sets Luffy off. Because Don Krieg says, this idiot scum no longer holds value to me. It's out of love that I put him out of his misery now. Wouldn't you agree? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't. I mean, what? What are you even talking about? And this begins the whole thing with Luffy just being like, all right, I'm going to come for you. And like I said, there are many, many pans from one character to another before Luffy makes his first move. It's just excessive how many people's faces we get to see before we actually have the start to this fight. And Gin is trying to tell him, you can't defeat him. And Sanji says, attacking head on would be playing right into his hands. You'll die. And then we see Luffy's face, and he just says, I won't die. And he goes for it. And it's an interesting thing because Sanji keeps getting sort of scolded in a way by Redfoot for apparently not having the same like complete determination, this like single-minded focus about something, and I am not sure what it is he's talking about. Am I supposed to know, or is it supposed to be revealed later? Just wanting to check. So Luffy heads straight for Don Krieg. Don Krieg first like detonates a bomb in the water, and then as the water is up, kind of creating a shield for him, he shoots all of these huge bullets at Luffy. I hesitate to even call them bullets because they do look more like small missiles. And Luffy gets hit multiple places, but he just keeps coming anyway. Then when he gets through that barrage of gunfire, he comes out on the other side, flying through the air, ready to punch Don Krieg, who wraps himself in a cape that everybody calls like the porcupine I think, covered in these huge spikes. And he has this extremely smug expression, like he does really not think that there's any chance Luffy is going to attempt to attack him when he is wrapped in this thing. And he just underestimated Luffy, because Luffy just punches anyway. And really, one of those spikes would, like, rip his hand to shreds. It would permanently cripple him. But I guess it's just supposed to be like a few needles, really. And yeah, he punches Don Krieg. Don Krieg goes down. And this was one of those moments where, again, it felt drawn out, because Don Krieg goes down and we get another pan to every, and I mean every character's reaction. I mean, all of the guys off to the side, everybody in the water. And we have Don Krieg on the ground, seeming to be dead, but we know there's no way that killed him. So we are aware he's not dead. But it takes so long for him to get moving again. And in that time, Luffy pulls some of those, like, little missiles out of his, he's got one in his shoulder, he's got one in his leg, I think even in his torso. I will say that when it pans to the cooks, and they're all, like, they're making, like, this sort of motion with their hands, because they're like, oh, I bet that really hurt. And I did think that was actually kind of funny. Let's see. Florian says, Luffy's fights so far have always had an audience, what I found interesting ever since I noticed it. Gabriela says, it's so we can spend time in reaction panels. I think Gabriela is absolutely correct. I don't think it's anything to do with the narrative. I think it's the more people we have involved, the more we can stretch it out by simply showing what they're thinking or saying to each other. And, you know, also, I am sort of going on an assumption here, but it might not be true at all. But I have been sort of assuming that part of this having audiences all the time was meant to boost Luffy's reputation. So that, like, as the story continues, maybe he would begin to run into people who had heard about him and know who he was based on stories. But that might not be anything. It's just sort of the way that I would expect this to happen if it were a different type of story, you know, a novel or something. Oh, and I should mention, too, that when he, drops Don Krieg here, somebody says, holy shit, in the subtitles. And I was like, all right, that is the first, like, outright swear. Son of a bitch, I think, was the most sweary so far. But I don't remember anybody saying shit. And Alex says, it has more to do with the nature of the manga. I think it's common to have people commenting on what's happening, so it's not all just pages of punching. Listen, I have no problem with pages of punching, like, just for the record. So yeah, again, like I said, everybody is commenting about how, oh my god, I can't believe that he brought Don Krieg down. He was supposed to be invincible. Luffy keeps talking about how, is this my graveyard or yours, as he pulls these friggin' spikes basically out of his body. He's bleeding a lot, but not as much as he probably should be from this type of injury, all things considered. And he has this, like, manic expression on his face. I should mention that he doesn't have his straw hat on here either. I don't remember what happened to it. Full disclosure. I'm sure that we saw what happened, but I don't remember it. So he just stands there staring at Don Krieg for a long time. And then we go to Sanji, who's watching and says he's crazy. And Redfoot says, you see idiots like that every once in a while. Ones who will fight to the death once they've set their eyes on a target. And Sanji says, fight to the death. And says it in this sort of way like he's never heard those words before in his life. There is definitely something going on here that I'm not picking up on. I would like to know, but, you know, I'm being patient. You're in trouble if someone like that becomes your enemy. And again, Sanji just staring. Win or lose, I like guys like him. And I really, like, there's a bit of a close-up on Sanji after Redfoot says, win or lose, I like guys like him. Like, I think it's supposed to be Sanji sort of realizing that his mentor, so to speak, this geezer, respects Luffy. And that maybe there's something that he could do to earn this guy's respect that he's been holding back on. So then we cut to meet Patty. And they are trying to help Gin, who is gasping like a landed fish on the deck of the ship. The two of them get in a fight about what to feed Gin. And I'm like, don't feed him. He needs those airways to breathe with right now, guys. And eventually they put a mask on him that's supposed to like kind of have perhaps a detoxifying effect. Allegedly, I don't think that's how that actually works, but it's fine. We do have a pretty good shot, I will say. While we are still looking at Don Krieg collapse on the ground and nothing is happening in that respect. And while Luffy does still seem to be standing totally still with his back to his enemy, which is an incredibly stupid thing to do. You don't do that. All that said, the shot of Luffy standing there with his like maniacal grin and his hair blowing forward in the wind and the blood streaming from his arm, it is pretty effective. It's a bad call, but it does look pretty cool. It does make him look sort of badass. That said, it's a really long shot again. And also, I feel like part of why he looks so badass is the fact that he does not have his hat on, which don't tell Luffy I said that. I understand that hat's importance to him, but just, it's not a badass look. Just saying. So then, all of the guys on the ground, or in the water, all of Krieg's people are like, it can't be. There's no way that Krieg got beaten. And all of a sudden, we hear Krieg say, "Stop talking nonsense." And he stands up and he picks up what he keeps calling a spear. Guys, he keeps calling it the mighty battle spear. First of all, this thing looks like a giant lollipop. Let's just get that out of the way right now. This is not intimidating. Secondly, he's unleashing it now. Now? Come on. This man has been fighting for what feels like 6 weeks. And he's just had this fucking thing up his sleeve and just not used it the whole time. Yeah, alright. He didn't use it because he knows that it looks like a fucking lollipop. And he's like, so embarrassing. Like, yeah, it blows things up and it's like actually pretty strong, but it looks goofy AF. And I'm just going to wait. Hopefully I don't have to whip this one out. And yeah, I mean, there is like a point coming out of it, but it's so overlapped with this like shield thing. It just doesn't. And every time that he brings it down on anything, that thing explodes. And it doesn't feel like the kind of weapon you want when you're fighting on a boat. You don't want a weapon that explodes the surface you're standing on when you're in water wearing 6 tons of armor. That's what I was really hoping for. I'll tell you what, guys. I was hoping that he would be hoisted by his own petard. That he would be so busy trying to fuck Luffy up that he wouldn't notice he was slowly eating away at his own area, and eventually he would just sink out of sight. That was what I was really hoping for, and that didn't happen, and I will say I was like pretty disappointed about it. I just really wanted him to like just fuck his own shit up because he was just not thinking clearly or focused enough. Florian says, notice that it was his shoulders before. Yes. And that's part of the thing. Like when he pulls this out, he also whips that cape off and everything. So this is one of the first times that we're seeing him without as much of that shit all over him, all of his clothing. But yeah, so this is, like I said, the beginning of like the next phase of the fight. And Don Krieg is really thinking that he's figured out what Luffy's limit is. And Luffy says, with my foothold rocking like this, I can't fight with my full power. I was confused by that. Luffy is bendy. He doesn't have to stay on that foothold. He can do, like, it felt like the show was trying to tell us that he was at a disadvantage, but it didn't feel like it was real. I felt like they were trying to make us think he was going to have more of a problem than he was actually going to have, if that makes sense, in order to try and give the illusion that Luffy is in danger. But I just was like, this guy has been able to pull off such crazy shit so far. I just don't see that this in particular is like, there's a moment where he begins to fall backward off of the boat, and we've just seen him like reach out and grab things from meters away so many times that I didn't understand why he didn't just reach out for the mast and grab that and pull himself back. It's sort of, the show doesn't like to remind us about Luffy's abilities sometimes. It's like they want us to think that he doesn't have them or that they don't always work. It's like the same thing when his hat flew off in that other episode. And him and Zoro, they both go nuts trying to get his hat back when we have seen how Luffy can extend himself. So he could have just reached out and grabbed the hat out of the air, but that doesn't work for what they're trying emotionally to get to happen in that scene. So they just act like he can't do that. And that was what was happening here. It was just them sort of pussyfooting around. And for me, it was like there's a million handholds and railings and posts and masts and whatnot sticking up all over the place. There is so much for Luffy to work with here that actually, I would argue, in this setting, he's at more of an advantage than he has been in a lot of the other places that he's fought, because there is so much that he can sort of like whip around on and use as leverage. So instead, he winds up like clinging to the spear until eventually he does get nailed with it, and he doesn't explode. And this isn't like another thing. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to be hard on these two episodes, but you show the whole like deck of a ship begin to explode under the force of this. And you really make it seem like it's an outright explosion that's happening. It's not, oh, it looks like it exploded from the force of the impact. They say everything it touches explodes. But then when it hits Luffy, he's just covered in soot and like coughing a bit. He didn't explode. And it would be fine if it were like the gum fruit keeps him from being explodable. I would have been interested in seeing that actually. If the rubber nature of his body were exploited for a great moment here, and he sort of seemed to explode outward in that shape, but then bounced back to himself. And how kind of jarring that would be, because I don't feel like we've seen Luffy undergo that sort of attack before. It's weird. There's a real piece of potential there. And I just feel like there was a failure of imagination here. It's like the writers either forgot what Luffy can do. I don't know. Maybe they were like, didn't want to animate that, but they're doing some work here with the animation. So I wouldn't think that would be the issue. I don't know. It just, this whole fight, I was just like, why is this happening this way? There are so many other ways it could have gone. And that all ties back to Don Krieg sucks. It almost seems as if the story writer lost interest in Don Krieg himself and was like, I don't know, I gotta get rid of this guy. I'd have to make him seem like a threat. So I'll just like, we'll ignore what Luffy can do to just build the tension, and then we'll finally end this thing. Let's see. Florian says, I felt the same way, Natasha. Okay, cool. Alex says, that moment was thankfully not from the manga. They added it as a trigger for the flashback. In the manga, the Shanks story wasn't a flashback. It was the first chapter. Oh. Gabriela says, it's a well-deserved harshness. It's okay. Alex says, agreed. Gabriela says, they just extended the fight longer than it needed to be in ways that made no real sense. And Kyle says, more like Don Cretan. Kyle, I hate you. Yeah, Gabriela, I think that's really what it is. They padded out the fight. And I understand that a lot of the time people think that you have to have a real sense of somebody being in danger for a fight to work. And to a degree, that's true. But I feel like we all are so aware that Luffy is going to be fine, that I wouldn't mind if they toyed with the villain a little bit more and didn't try to inject a false sense of tension. Because watching Luffy, like, sort of explode, but then not really because he's rubber, or watching him catapult himself off of all these different areas because there's railings and things due to the ships being, like, broken into pieces, all of that could have been really fun to watch. And instead of Luffy like beating Don Krieg because he just lands these really heavy punches, and granted later on he says something about like, oh, I got 5 hits, I think that should be enough. But wouldn't it be fun to see Luffy sort of like running circles around Don Krieg, and we get to watch Don Krieg just get exhausted, you know, like, he is very strong, but also eventually wielding this giant fucking spear thing does get tiring. Or, yeah, he's very strong, but he's carrying around 500 pounds of armor all the time. And Luffy just whirling around him, kicking him, smacking him, maybe making it a bit of a joke that this guy is trying to have a serious fight. And Luffy is just out here kind of humiliating him. I feel like that would be a lot more fun to watch, not just because it's more interesting to see Luffy do things like that, but because Don Krieg has been taken so seriously without there feeling like that is earned at all. That I would enjoy seeing the character sort of sent up a little bit. You know, have him be treated as like, yeah, he takes himself really seriously, but actually he sucks. And we're going to really like hammer home that he sucks and takes himself too seriously via the way he gets beaten. I don't know. I just feel like that could have been more fun and more satisfying in the end, instead of what we get, which is Luffy like seeming to forget about his own powers, a weird spear that has very inconsistent powers, and a slow plodding sort of, oh, I think he's dead. Surprise, he's not dead. Oh, I got him again. I think he's dead. Surprise, he's not dead. Nope, I really got him this time, guys. Nope, he is still alive. It's just, come on. So, I'm going to jump to the end of this one. We have everybody, you know, the pan around to everybody, the last moments where Redfoot says to Sanji, at least that kid doesn't have any hesitation. And we see Don Krieg taking the last swing and Luffy going flying again. Why is he going flying? And Sanji looking extremely determined. As Redfoot says, is it a survival instinct, or does he not fear death because he has faith in himself? Maybe that's what it is. It's like, I'm wanting to have this certain scene, but evidently they were trying to get a lesson across to Sanji, and maybe having the fight work out the way that I'm thinking wouldn't have gotten the lesson across. I just don't feel like it's worth it, though. You know, I don't feel like this fight is worth sitting through just so that Sanji can learn that lesson. I feel like there has to be a better way to convey that Luffy is willing to put it all on the line and that he's super determined and focused. I don't know. So let's see, what is the very last scene? Oh yeah, here it is. Luffy says, I gave it 5 punches. I guess that's it for your spear. And he narrows his eyes, and it just says, prepare yourself. And then it goes to be continued. Beep-ba-dum, ba-ba-dee-bum, ba-beep-ba-dee-ba-dee-da, beep-ba-dee-ba-dee-ba-beep, beep-a-beep-beep-up. I really honestly do like that song, guys. It's very chill. And the battle spear has broken, and everybody is in total shock. Sanji is standing there, shaking, saying, his body has taken too many explosions. He can't keep up. How can this possibly? As we pan over to... Oh, let's see what the title card for this one says. The conclusion of the deadly battle, a spear of blind determination. That's a pretty good name. A spear of blind determination. So, we have Luffy just standing, staring at Don Krieg. And with a foothold of this size, I can kick your ass. And that, with the spear blade broken, that's just a bomb on a stick. The power is cut by half. And I was sort of puzzled by that, because the blade didn't seem to cut anything. So that doesn't, like, that seems like what the whole thing was to begin with. It, like, when you saw the blade fall apart, I was under the impression, from the end of the last episode, that he had rendered it inert, so to speak. And when I started this episode and he says it's just a bomb on a stick, I was like, just? That's what the point of it being so dangerous was the bomb part, not the spear part. You don't look like you're even cut. He's got blood, but it's because of the shots that he's taken and just being generally sort of batted around. Let's see. Florian says, to be honest, I like Zeph, but I never got what this speech of his is supposed to say. Oh, Florian, that makes it so much worse, because I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt that they were attempting to accomplish something. And that was why they were drawing this fight out. But if you don't even get what it is that Zeph was trying to do, then they didn't even accomplish that. So it doesn't seem like it was worth it in any way. Gabriela says, have you watched the full ending? Episode 30 is the last time it shows, so you totally should if you haven't. Have you watched the full ending? Oh, the full song? No. I never did, because it didn't look like there was anything happening. It just looked like a static image with the song playing over it. Is it something else? Let's see. Alex says, I think they are. Next time it'll make more sense, I think. Okay. She says, no, just hear the full song. But the song isn't subtitled. Am I being dense? Because I don't know what the lyrics are saying. Sorry, everybody who's listening to this. When you can't see the chat, I'm sure that it's very frustrating hearing this. She says, nope, no worries. I'll find you a video. Okay, cool. So, yeah, as I was very saddened to be like aligning with Don Krieg, but he says, yeah, a bomb on a stick, what of it? And I was like, yeah, I also would like to know what of it. And again, back and forth with like, that sounds like a bluff. It's not a bluff. It seems like a bluff. And I'm like, okay, can we just get back to the fight? Finally, you signed your death warrant. And Luffy literally says, I won't die, and sticks his tongue out. And I swear to God, if that isn't the most Luffy moment in the whole fucking show so far, I won't die, and then sticking your tongue out. That is Luffy energy right there. That is Luffy culture. I'm screenshotting this, and I'm just going to use this as a react at various times in my life where people are like, that's bad for your health, and I'll just say I won't die. Blech. And you can take that in a variety of ways. Either it won't kill me, or I am never going to die. Which I'm fine with either interpretation. So at this point, at the start of this one, he comes after Luffy, and Luffy jumps up onto one of the masts and uses his bouncy powers. He keeps hopping around, is what he says, and calls him a monkey. Lots and lots of different, techniques here. Luffy chucks a mast at him. He explodes that with some sort of, it has a red cloud of gas coming out of it. Sanji is asking the questions that really matter, which is just how many built-in weapons does he have? I would also like to know this, because it just seems like he keeps coming up with too many. So this is when Luffy does the Gatling gun. Gum Gatling. And I will tell you what, probably this is my favorite of all of his attacks, because it's just relentless and very fun to watch. And also it is as close to aligning with my ideal version of this fight as we get. I love the fucking pirates off to the side who are just like, what is he doing? And one of them says, I just see lots of arms. Also, I should mention that the fucking chefs off to the side are all still calling him Chore Boy, which I don't know why the fact that they still talk about him that way is so funny to me. But yeah, he's still just Chore Boy to them. It's fine. So he lays all these punches down. And then when he finally lands in front of Don Krieg says, all of that was absolutely pointless. This armor can take so much damage without being broken. You can't even do anything to me. No problem. And then Luffy does his recoil and comes forward with a punch. And I thought it was going to be that punch breaks the armor immediately because of all of the punches that he had laid down to begin with, since that seemed to be the style of what they were doing here. And he says, I think I'm pretty close, and stands up. And I was like, I thought you were pretty close too, buddy. And I see what you're trying to do. I thought you were on the right track. What is happening here? And then he looks up and Don Krieg is gone. And Don Krieg is now standing at the top of a mast. I don't know what's happening, how he got up there. What's the ultimate force means the strongest equipment and the strongest power. The strong one is the one who survives. The strong one is... And that's where it ends, that sentence. And he just stands there as Luffy comes at him up the mast. It was a weird moment. How did he get up there? Why is Luffy chasing him? I don't understand the geography of this whole area here. So this is when Luffy uses Gum Bazooka. He launches himself forward. He throws Don Krieg off the top of the mast. Don Krieg goes flying in a different direction from his spear, but then says to him, "No good, that's all you can do," with a very smug smile, as these black spheres get thrown into the air. And he notices at this point his armor indeed cracking. And he looks worried for a moment, but quickly follows up with, "It's too late. You're done for, anchor boy." And keeps going flying. And this is when Sanji, I think it's Sanji, Sanji yells, "It's a trap, get out." Sanji is extremely concerned for Luffy. Like, he has not taken his eyes off this fight for a second. And all of the spheres land, and it's like a million explosions in the water. I felt really bad for all of these pirates and chefs, because they're just casualties of not even casualties of war. They're collateral damage in this fight. He just rained down bombs when Luffy isn't even down there. Like, you have to know you're not going to be hurting him when you throw those, right? He doesn't seem like he's thought that through. And Luffy comes soaring out through the clouds again, punches him again, saying bazooka. The armor all cracks away from him, so that we get to see his amazing Saturday Night Fever low-cut V-neck shirt exposed for the whole world to see. And, it's very stylish, good choice, probably what you want under that kind of armor, give you a little breathing room. And I have to mention that they're like soaring through the air at a very, like, what one would think is a slow-mo. But then the camera pulls back down to the crowd in the water, and they're all cheering at regular speed as they look up at Luffy floating in midair. And Luffy's floating and speaking in full sentences while cheering for himself in midair. He's like literally flying. That's what's happening here. Practically, he's flying. Okay, sure, why not? So then, again, he's still alive. So in midair, as we are wont to do, Don Krieg releases a steel net to wrap him in, cackling to himself about how, I bet you can't escape this. And they both go plunging towards the water. "The game is over, anchor boy. I'm the one who's getting the last laugh." And I did have to say, I forget that you have been laughing this much, because you don't seem to be a particularly humorous fellow, but he has been laughing practically after every sentence. So then Luffy says, "If I can get my arms and legs out, the game is mine." And we cut to Sanji asking, "Why doesn't he flinch?" And I'm like, he doesn't have time to flinch, Sanji. He's been netted in midair. I'm sure that, we know that he hasn't flinched. But from that far away, you can't make those kinds of judgment calls, Sanji. Don't beat yourself up. He's just very hard on himself. So then, Luffy does the single most visually upsetting attack we have seen so far, which is that he twists his legs around one another like the center part of a pretzel and wraps them all the way down the netting. Each foot lands on either side of Don Krieg's head. He traps the man's head between his feet and then unwhirls his legs so that this guy has been spun, like the centrifugal force, I would think, had melted his brain already. And he gets absolutely slammed head first into the deck of the ship in an attack apparently called the Giant Gavel. Which, I guess that's a pretty good name for it, actually. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This also does not kill Don Krieg. Am I correct in this? I'm pretty sure I'm correct in this, because we're only halfway through the episode. So, Luffy gets plunged into the water, again, wrapped in this, steel net, so this is very bad for him. And we see him getting dragged, further and further down into the depths of the ocean. Okay, this is the spot where we see the straw hat. I forgot. Here it is. And this is when the Redfoot says, "Those who eat the devil fruit lose the ability to swim." Sanji says, "What did you say, you damn geezer? You should have told me that sooner. What are you going to do if it's too late?" And he takes his shoes and jacket off and dives into the water to go and rescue Luffy, which leaves Zeph looking pretty happy. Like, he seems pleased at the fact that Sanji went ahead and did this. Again, I'm not really sure what it is that he's like. It seems like Sanji passed some sort of test by doing this, but I don't know what it is that, like, is it just selflessness? Is it because we've seen Sanji be selfless? He's been fighting, and he fed these guys even though they were. So I don't know. I feel like he's done a good thing already. Anyway, he goes down underwater, and it's a really weird kind of scene because I thought from the way that things were set up that Luffy had just collapsed straight to the bottom. But it turns out that he's like caught on a piece of ship, and all of these pieces of ship are floating in the water, like suspended as if in jello. They have not hit all the way to the floor of the ocean. But regardless, yeah, he, oh my God, I don't understand this. I was on the next episode and it just bounced back into the previous episode. How did it even do that? Okay, my bad. All right, so, oh, okay, gotcha. Here it is. So yeah, we have a bit of a flashback here where Sanji is thinking as he's rescuing Luffy about all of the different things that he has seen from Luffy. Him yelling about Zoro, about how Luffy, just straight up looked at Don Krieg after getting shot and was like, "I'm not going to die here today." And the variety of moments, I guess, is really what this summary is supposed to be, where Luffy could have thrown in the towel and didn't. And then we have the one moment with Zoro where he is talking to what's his name? Longbody? No. Who's Longbody? Longbody is the cop type guy, right? What's the name of or Full Body? Was he Full Body? What's the name of the vampire pirate swordsman? Everybody? But he's remembering that fight. I'm getting so many. Okay. Full Body is the other guy. A Hawkeye. Hawkeye? Full Body is the Marine, right? Hawkeye Mihawk? Is that his full name? I feel like I remember his name being weirdly repetitive to me. Dracul Mihawk. So who's Hawkeye? Mihawk is his name. Hawkeye is a nickname. Okay. Thank you. Ugh. But yeah, so he's remembering that moment and the fact that Zoro basically was like, I feel like if I pull out of this now, I'm going to be breaking a bunch of promises that I've made to myself and to other people. And, just overall, there just feels like it's really meant to be a moment where Sanji is facing down how badly he wants something and whether or not to commit to it or not. But I'm not entirely sure. Is it just joining them and being a pirate? Is that what it is that he's deciding on whether he wants to do? I don't know. So he brings Luffy to the surface. Everybody seems very relieved. And as he is bringing Luffy up, we see Don Krieg, who has been, he's in a crater, essentially, in front of where Gin is. And Gin is watching him and is just like, I can't believe this. That guy was like somebody that I worshipped practically, you know? He was the strongest man I've ever seen, ever met. And meet Patty, they're both pointing out, yeah, his armor got shattered and he's really, look at him over there. And he's not handling it well. I was really surprised by this. I keep forgetting that Gin actually liked Don Krieg. And he's like, the one man I admired. He was the strongest. And I'm like, guy, have you not figured out yet that, like, you were idolizing him for the wrong reasons and he's a bad man who's going to let you die? I guess this is what happens when people, get abused, is that they, like, come to their abuser's defense. But it kept, like, surprising me to see how difficult this was for Gin, because I kept expecting him to just be like, oh, thank God he's dead. And that wasn't the reaction at all. So Sanji gets Luffy out of the water and is panicking, thinking that Luffy's dying. But as it turns out, Luffy is only asleep, which I found very fun. I actually really liked that. And then oh my God, you guys, I gotta rewind this. You know what? I'm gonna screen share real quick, because I need you guys to I don't know how many of you all noticed this. I'm going to leave that screen up. Look at Don Krieg getting back to his feet, y'all. Because this shit is like Exorcist. This is super creepy. Look at this. Whoop. The man is possessed. Somebody needs to put him down. I can't. I gotta watch it again. I'm sorry. It's just too funny. He just literally levitates. It's like he got pulled on a string. It reminds me of Nandor coming out of his coffin. Oh my God, that's so funny to me. I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry. I had to show you guys that, because that just cracked me up just now. I forgot that's how it happened. So yeah, this is when Don Krieg says, "No one defeats my force." And somebody says, "Hold him. He's not even conscious." And they all like kind of jump on him. But like, it's not the jumping on him like I wanted. I thought it was going to be, oh, guys, we can handle him now. But they're just like, Don, please stop. They're all like, in the way that, like, for your own good, buddy, we need you to calm down. No, kill him. Just kill him. What are you doing? He casts them all off and then stands there just screaming, "I am the strongest man. I have to win." And you guys, if I swear to God, is that a GIF? Because that is a really good GIF to comment on, like, one of those dudes who just won't shut the fuck up and keeps wanting to have the last word in an argument. It's just Don Krieg saying, "I am the strongest man. I have to win." I hope that's a GIF. I'm going to go look for it later, because that really is what it comes down to when people just won't leave an argument alone. So this is when Gin rolls up and punches him in the stomach. But not in a, "you need to stop, I am going to kill you myself" kind of way. He punches him in the stomach and then carries him over one shoulder and says, "Let's withdraw gracefully and start afresh." What? No. What? No. Just kill the man. Just stop. Just drown him. Just cut his throat. He's awful. He's a bad man. And, like, granted, y'all seem like bad men, but he seems particularly bad. I mean, he's so bad that all of the bad men were shocked at how bad he was. Just get rid of him. Fuck. What are we doing here? You know? So Florian asks, do you think we will meet Gin again? He says he will meet Luffy on the Grand Line again. I think so. Like I had said, I was sort of wondering if he would join up with them. He seems like they've made too much of a point of him to just do away with him forever. But I really hope it's not in the context of having to see Don Krieg again. I hope if we see Gin, Don Krieg is long since out of the picture. You know, like, if you're not going to kill him, put him in a home. Something. Just, I don't know. Just drop him off at a retirement community somewhere. So, at this point, Sanji hands over to Gin the boat that they use to go grocery shopping. Which I really would love to know where that boat has been hiding this whole time, because that shit is destroyed. That shit got bombed, burned, God knows. But apparently it's fine. It's very small, but they do pile all of their men on it into a heap that looks like the laundry sitting in my living room right now. And he just like kind of hops onto the top of the pile, which, sure. It's really fun to see how much the boat sinks under the weight of them all, but they're all apparently asleep. Like, nobody seems to really have much of a problem with how many of them are piled on here. And Gin is, like, looking at the whole thing with a grin on his face. He seems very pleased with the whole arrangement. So, yeah. And I also should mention that Meat Patty, they are not happy about their boat being given away. They are very upset about it. But really, guys, I think that you need to count your blessings that you're about to get these assholes out of your hair once and for all. It's a small sacrifice. Your whole ship basically almost got sank. Y'all, just, take what you can. So that ends that storyline. And then we cut over to Nami, who is alone on their ship. And I don't know how she's like steering this and everything all alone, but evidently she is. And she's thinking about whether or not when she runs into that crew again, they will let her join up with them again after what she did. And then she just begins to wonder whether or not she will ever see them again at all. Like, genuinely starts to get emotional about it. And she starts crying really hard and she says, I want to be free. And it ends with her saying Bellamere-san right after we cut to the credits. So it's like that translation is over the credits. I guess that's somebody's name, because San is like an honorific, right? Bellamere is a pretty good name. I wonder who it is, if it's like... Because if it's a san, that usually is a mark of respect, right? So that wouldn't be like her parent or like little sister or something like that. That sounds like a person that she respected, like a teacher or I don't know. And the fact that she says, I want to be free? I don't know. Florian says, can we get some predictions? I don't know. Like, I want to be free. What does that mean? The thing that my mind goes to immediately is she's obsessed with treasure and she says she wants to be free. Does she have like really high student loans? Is Bellamere-san her Sally Mae? And she's just desperately trying to pay that shit off because she just wishes she were free of it and she can't get out from under it because the interest is just out of control. I could see that. I relate. Gabriela says the IRS is after her. Oh God, that does feel right too. I know that feel. So that's my assumption is that she owes somebody money. That's what I'm going with. And she's acting like, oh, I just want treasure. And I'm like, why? Does it... something's up. Maybe she's trying to ransom somebody. But then why would she want to be free? Yeah, I don't know. That's what I got. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Thank you again to Gabriela for commissioning this episode. I appreciate you all humoring me because I got impatient with this arc, but it does help to know that I'm not the only one. And let's see when the next one is. July 16th, this Friday. All right. So I'll see you guys very soon. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.